All right, everyone, how's it going? Today, I'm just going to be quickly showing you how you can take your velocity on your keyboard and make it constant, so that way it doesn't change. And if you're like me, for some things, you might not want your velocity to be all over the place. Like maybe you want your piano or something to sound a certain way, and it's just not sounding that certain way because there's velocity. So it's really quite easy. It's not like for the whole entire DAW, like there's no real option anywhere in here in like behavior to like turn off your velocity. However, what you can do is you can come here and there's actually a velocity note effect. And what you can do is take this X1 value and make it 0. Come grab a macro tool here and then drag both of these to 0. Apply the macro to full to the Y1 and the Y2. And now you'll get this sort of effect. And if we play our piano, basically anything above this velocity, like say here, which would be most things. So basically everything has to be played at this velocity, lower or higher. So if I have it up high, I play soft. Same like velocity no matter what I do. As we can see by this graph. It has to play that always, and then here. So this is helpful for things like, say, a piano. Because, for example, I like the hard tones, but I want everything to be soft, right? And you don't get that if you have... It's like too hard. And there's a bit of a difference between how, say, contact pianos treat velocity versus these tone options. I prefer the option where you have harder tones, but then like softer velocity. I like the piano to sound more in that sort of manner. So this is, for example, like what I would use that for. But we can hear this difference between this and then me just turning up the velocity and putting the tone softer. This is very soft, and I can keep this sort of velocity and screw with the tone now. And that's kind of cool. And it works for MIDI. And you might be like, well, just make a bunch of MIDI notes and stop being such a prick about it. What happens here now is that these always have the default velocity of 78.7, which is kind of annoying because Bitwig, for example, if I have this length note and I double click, I get that previous note, which is for some people a nuisance. I don't mind. If you draw even, it gives you the same note, or you might have to drag back. And what's kind of annoying is that the up changes velocity and then the left to right changes the note size. And we can see how like every time I add a note, it's the previous note basically. What's stupid about that is that it's not the previous velocity. It's the default velocity every time you put in a new note. And that's kind of frustrating because then you have to make a whole super loud chord progression. And then you're going to have to come in here and be like, okay, well, I want 45. Versus just having your chords the way they should be at the 78.7 and then just having this on. So, bit of benefit there. That's all I wanted to show you is just kind of a workaround. And say you just don't want to have velocity on at all. You can just throw this down on first in your instrument track and kind of block it at like max. And then everything you'll do will just be max volume. This helps with certain plugins that react to velocity. I think something like, Harmor by ImageLine. I know if you're in FL Studio and you have a MIDI keyboard, it does it, but I'm not sure. I don't remember for third party if it does it still. Like if I were to put Harmor inside Bitwig, if it still reacts to velocity. But if it did, you could change it in the plugin or just do this. And like I said, you can do this on pianos and strings and percussion and all sorts of stuff. So when you're playing back, you can have like consistent volume and you don't have to worry about like those sort of velocity issues that you might get from a bad MIDI keyboard or just like not wanting to press very hard every time you press a key. That's it. Thanks for watching.